Pastor Roy Gerhart from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. Yesterday, we introduced the crossing of the Jordan River. Joshua led the people crossing the Jordan River to enter into the Promised Land. This is their first great obstacle in entering in to lay claim to God's promise. And it is a real challenge. The river is at flood stage, and so crossing over it is no easy task. You take even a small river at flood stage, and it is a terrifying power, a force to be reckoned with. You can easily get in over your head and be washed away. And so God is going to lead them through the River Jordan. And he does this in a miraculous way. The priests lead the way carrying the Ark of the Covenant. And this is a picture of God's presence, God leading them, going into that river. And as soon as they stepped into the waters stopped. It was like God dammed them up, and the waters below flow away, and they are left with a dry riverbed. The priests stood in the middle of the river while all of the people crossed over, and then God had them take 12 stones representing the 12 tribes right from the middle of that riverbed. And they carried them to the other side where they were able to set up a monument to remember what God had done and to be able to tell their children, that's the place. That's where God rescued us from floodwaters and carried us through to the other side. That's a message that all of us needs to hear. Everyone needs to know that God can rescue us from floodwaters, that God can carry us through a raging torrent that would wash us away. Everyone needs to hear that kind of good news and message. When we were gathered in a Bible study this week, one of the guys had an answer to a question that was really striking. I asked, what does this whole story and message have to do with us? How can we see God working in our lives now in the way that he worked in the people of Israel? He said, well, those stones, those are the things that God has helped us through in our life. Those stones are the burdens, the problems, the crises, even the sin that we have come through and overcome. Those are what God has rescued us from. And they are the things then that we carry out, the things that we take away that are able to be this witness of what God has rescued us from and how God has saved us. What an incredible picture of this in our lives. Many of us would picture those stones as just the baggage that we have in our life, the PTSD from some traumatic experience, the bitterness that we have from harm that's been done to us, unforgiveness from something that was wrong that another did to us, this painful struggle that we can never seem to get over, that we just look back on and say, oh, look at what happened to me, look at all the problems that I've had in my life. And there are many people that carry baggage like that in their lives, but these stones are not that kind of baggage. These are witnesses to the things that God has saved us from. So instead of looking back on that crisis, that traumatic experience, the terrifying things that we have gone through in our life and saying, oh, woe is me, we look back on them and say, oh, God was with me. He was with me right there in the middle of that flooding river. He was there with me when I was overwhelmed and was going to be swept away. God got me through. And for some of us, that's going to be a story of some kind of miraculous work of God, like a miraculous healing. I got up off of my deathbed and here I am. And for others, it's going to be a story of God who is with them and has given them a sustaining strength to get through all of those darksome paths. A sustaining strength that to this day is managing them and carrying them through all kinds of different problems and obstacles. But you see, it becomes this story stone of what God has done. A witness that we are able to pass along this good news. God can get you through a raging, flooding river in your life. Whatever that river is that's overwhelming you, whatever it is that is about to wash you away, God is there. And you can find his strength that gives you the courage to carry on. whether he raises you up with a miraculous healing, whether he suddenly stops all the floodwaters and you're standing on dry ground, or he gives you a sustaining strength that carries you through. You bob up to the surface and he allows you to cross over. God is there. Your strength. Be courageous. Trust him today. May God bless you, and as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever he takes you.